Hello everyone, welcome back. We have a brief continuation, a bit of an update on that $100 movie challenge. The two that seemed like they might have been lost in the mail, there was no tracking, whatever, showed up since we filmed that video. Splice and the astronaut's wife, and that false cancellation, which was an error, ended up sending us the copy of the Blu-ray from the Warner Archive of The Ice Pirates we talked about. So they all did arrive. So we will get watching. We've actually watched a couple of these since I filmed that video, so we did go ahead and watch The Ice Pirates, and man, that was a bizarre experience. This was one of those movies that we had to look up some details of the production afterwards, and it really made the whole thing make more sense then, because there were so many elements of it that were just bizarre tonal shifts to where it seemed like at points they were really trying to make a true, very Star Wars ripoff, but like a real science fiction movie. There were some of the effects, some of the practical stuff, some of the makeup, some of the tone of some of the scenes genuinely felt like they were really trying. And then you had those other things that felt extra low budget, very borrowed set feel and like out of date, and the forced humor elements that were Amanda compared it in some spots to Spaceballs, the level of parody in some of the jokier scenes, and it just seemed like a very odd thing. And like something had to have happened in production that changed things up partway through or something. It was not partway through; it was beforehand. But originally, this was supposed to be a more serious science fiction adventure and had a budget of around 20 million. Then the studio came in, had them do rewrites to make it more comedic, and slashed the budget down to like 9 million. So that explained so much of the weird tonal things in the movie and how the movie was this weird mishmash of things that seemed actually kind of creative and original and might have worked, but then things that were just very goofy and schlocky and very low budget feeling. And there were a lot of sets that were commenting in a few scenes that like some of this movie feels like, all right, it is early to mid 80s, definitely sci-fi, and other stuff feels right out of the 70s. Well, it turns out a whole bunch of the stuff to save on the budget was borrowed from leftover things from Logan's Run, and that provided a lot of that kind of 70s vibe we were feeling. So it was a very just bizarre experience. I don't think a movie that I would probably watch again, but it's one of those things where I'm actually really glad I did watch it, especially with Amanda, watching it, with someone else made it an enjoyable experience one time, and just kind of a weird movie, but probably not wanted to watch again. And one of those that was, what could have been, like if they actually, what the original vision had been made, it actually might have been a half decent 80s science fiction film. It might have been, maybe more along the lines of like Krull or something, not like a big classic. I don't think it ever had the potential for that, but there was some good stuff in here that could have been better than what it was. And then the two that we watched the very first night after we actually filmed the first part of that video, we did go ahead and watch Vibes because Amanda was really excited about that and I was curious about it, and I actually got her to watch Frankenhooker with me. And if you watch that movie, this is one of those oddball movies that I've seen the trailer for and the cover of a million times, and it's like, if I ever randomly stumbled upon it for a couple bucks at a thrift store, I would love to check it out. But I would never really want to spend the money and search for it. Like, I wasn't that interested. But when we finally got it, I was really excited because if you look at the cover art and everything that's in that, and you watch the trailers, it really focuses on this character. And I really thought the majority of it was going to be focused on that character, the Frankenhooker, and was going to be very comedic horror in the vein that they were showing, kind of slapsticky. I thought the majority of the movie was going to be her kind of running amok and that being hilarious. That's kind of what it looked like from the trailers. That's not what that movie is. She's barely in it as the completed, fully fleshed out version. The majority of the movie, without even looking at the timestamps or anything, I would seriously guess at least 80% of this movie is the build-up leading to her creation, and that entire section, even given its kooky premise, somehow managed to be boring, which is crazy to say because there's so much in there. You have exploding prostitutes and all kinds of crazy stuff happening, and on paper it's like that should not be boring, but it was. Both of us were bored to death. We thought the humor, none of it landed. We sat there just kind of staring at the screen, didn't laugh once, and the occasional just go, what is happening, looking at each other, was not entertaining at all. Then you got several minutes really of genuinely we're liking this movie with that title character, and that didn't last very long. And they had a couple of cool creature effects at the very, very end, like right before the credits drop, and there were maybe 5 to 10 minutes of this movie that I genuinely really enjoyed, because those were what I thought the majority of the movie was going to be, and it was not. So that was actually one of the most disappointing movie experiences I've ever had, because I built it up as this, it's not going to be good, it's going to be one of those just bad, funny, campy horror movies that is just enjoyable. And I was thinking it was going to be, I don't know, something more along the lines of like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Not that vibe, but like that enjoyment level of the humor elements. And it just was not. That was not good. And then the total opposite experience, which I wish we had watched this second as like a pick-me-up, because that was such a letdown. Like I was really... But we watched this first, and this was the opposite. We both loved this movie. This is one of the best movies that we've both watched so far this year, as far as a first time for us, like watching a movie fresh. And it really surpassed my expectations. It was fantastic. Although I do think that you have to be of a certain audience to find it as enjoyable as we did. Like, we both love 80s movies. We love that vibe. We both really like Cyndi Lauper, a certain style of Jeff Goldblum, and then Peter Falk is fantastic. But I'm a huge Columbo fan, and Amanda likes him as well in some stuff, especially some of the non-Columbo things. He's really good, and it all work together. It's goofy, fun, it's silly, and then towards the end, it basically just turns into straight up Indiana Jones. I mean, it is fantastic. We both love this. You'll hear us talk about this movie definitely by the end of the year. As the end of every year, we each do our top 10 movies that we saw that were new to us throughout the year. And even though we're only like halfway through the year, this is pretty assuredly going to still be on both of our lists before the end of the year. I think we both loved that movie. It was a big surprise. So yeah, that is so far what I've checked out of these movies, and the other ones showed up, so that was a lot of fun. Hope you guys are having a great weekend, I think, as I'm filming this, depending when I put it up. Filming this on Father's Day, and good rest of your week, and I will see you around.